Then we've got some bulls for meat animals here that we pulled out just the same time we pulled those yearlings. There's 4 of them in here.
Do you feed inside the corral?
Yeah, these guys, we were feeding them some hay. I'm not sure what yet, when we're going to take them in. We were just feeding them in the corral. Basically, they're eating hay, and we've got protein barrels for them that are all natural. And then the rest of the main herd's out back, and they've been coming up to get hay. We had a lot of rain the other day, so it's gotten really muddy. Really muddy. We bring them in here and close the gates, and then we can run them through here and sort off the ones we want and turn the rest of them back out.
How big's your working facility?
Oh, it covers a few acres, probably 3 or 4 acres. We've got some large pens that are enough to, it makes it easy because when we rotate our fields, they go through these pens. That go through the big one over here. They just come through here, get mineral, and then just go on to the next field that they're going to. So we can rotate everything. So anyway, it works out good. And if we want to catch them, we just close the gate in front of them, and we've got them.
How many people does it take to?
Takes 1.
Just 1?
Yeah. And sometimes 2, but generally 1 person can do all that. Makes it work real easy. I've ran them through over the years, and worked so many when I come home from work a night, and 1 person can do it. It works better with 2, but as far as vaccinating them or worming them.
What is your corral made out of?
It's all oil well pipe that we got out of Oklahoma. We built it about, it's been 25 years ago probably. We built it in stages, so it works out good.
How tall is it?
It's almost 7 foot. It was based around a guy who used to haul a lot of animals for a friend of mine, and he ended up starting to buy animals, and then he'd bring them home, and he built himself a corral. He was a welder, and then he redid the corral several times until he got it the way he wanted it. But he'd bring home, 100 calves, warm them, and get them ready and take them back somewhere up north or wherever, because he was going places, and he'd find out who needed them, and he knew who had them. So this corral system really is a good corral system. It works really well, and it makes it easy. If you've got bison, it's important to have a corral of some sort.
Is your squeeze chute oversized, or is it like a cattle squeeze chute?
No, it's a Pearson. It's for buffalo. We've had it a long time. We've had it probably 28 years. It's worked out real well. I've got to replace some of the wood in it, but it works real well. The alleys are 10 foot. When the tub door swings at it, they hit against the wall. We've got a stop on the wall, so it makes it easy. Everything's based on that tub door size. We've got enough gates. We've got a lot of gates, actually, so that you can get into different places, different reasons, with a tractor or whatever. There's ways to get into all of it.
Tell us your name, your ranch name, and what you do here.
Okay, my name's Peter Cole. My wife's Susan Cole. We raise bison. We have for about 34 years. This place, KC Buffalo Company is our meat company, but it's Cottonwood Ranch, Buffalo Ranch. We've been in this spot since about '94.
Why bison?
Because bison are healthy. They're a unique animal. Back in the 70s, when I was on a reservation teaching school in Montana, there was some herd of bison there, and I never got to hardly see them. I saw them twice in a couple years, but you just had to time it right, because the place where you could drive up and into, if the bison were there in the days that I was off, was few and far between. So I only saw them 2 or 3 times, but always became interested in them. I knew they were healthy. It was a healthy meat to eat, and I knew a lot from native people how they talked about the bison, and I started researching it then. And someday I thought, I'm going to raise bison.
Are buffalo mean?
I don't think they are. We've had probably 3,000 animals here on this place, not all at once, but over the years. And we've only had a handful of animals that were mean. They're curious, they're not mean.
How many buffalo do you have here, and how many acres?
Oh, there's about 110, and it's on a little under 160 acres. 110, 120.
How many buffalo do you put per acre normally? Is it like cattle, or is it something different?
It depends on your pastures. We fertilize our pastures, and we generally, in the fall, we'll have plenty of grass if it's been a halfway decent rain season. We feed a lot of hay in the winter, and we'll feed all natural protein barrels. But and we always have loose mineral out. But no, it just kind of depends. Here, I think it's more like maybe acre and a half to an animal. Acre to acre and a half to an animal if you're feeding them. This year we've had a lot of grass. Or we fertilize it early in the spring, and it really helps it. And rotating your fields helps.
How many buffalo did you have when you got started?
I started off with 3 or 4 that I bought from a customer of mine, and he had 7, and I didn't know a lot about bison, and I had a small pen that I used to ride my horse in, and I know I put them in there, and the next morning I went out, they were outside, they just jumped over. It was probably 44 inches tall. They just jumped out into the pasture, and that's where I found them. You need a taller fence on your pen, but
how tall of a pen do you need?
Oh, if it's just a regular pen that you're not working them out of, 5 foot would be plenty. Somewhere around 5 foot, 4 to 5 feet.
What about when you're working them?
Well, then you need taller. Ours are a little over. They're probably close to 7 foot. I think they're about 6'8". But we don't. We try to keep everybody calm when we're working our animals. We want to keep them calm and let them do their thing. And we bring so many in at a time. Get anybody out that needs to be out quickly, and generally they're wanting to get out, so we'll run them to the back couple pens and warm them and let them out, and that generally calms everybody down if there's a problem that way. But we try not to, when we're sorting calves, we try not to get too many animals in an area, so that I'd rather take a couple more days doing it all, and nobody get hurt that way. we can bring them in here, these back pens, and then, you know, we bring a few in at a time so nobody gets hurt, no animal or person. And then we just run them up towards that first tub alley, close this gate behind them, and then it works smooth. Then I'll show you these pens up in this inside. So then we've got, when we're sorting off calves, we've got a 20 by 40 pen and then two 40 by 20s here. And we can sort calves out and or, you know, an animal that you want to take in to be processed or something, you can put them in one of these pens. And it works real well. Then there's an alley that goes out of the tub. Gate goes in front of the tub and goes through the squeeze chute. You go into, start that alley and go. You can go all the way around and circle all the way back to the tub if you wanted to. Or you can just let them out in a different field, either the back, over here on the side, whichever. So it works real well. We try to work them a couple times a year. And then we worm them. Well, we worm them then too, and we try to worm the animals 3 to 4 times a year. See, then they can come down. They go through here, go into the tub. We've got a rope on this tub door. Just pull it, close it right behind them.
Do you all sell meat?
We sell
and
meat.
Where do you sell it?
We sell it here at our store. We sell at health food stores and grocery stores and city market, and we ship a lot. We ship around the country. We also, people order online. We call it Bison to go. And my wife came up with that idea. And she's always trying to make sure they get it within an hour or two of when they order. So we'll take it if it's within 50 miles, we take it to them.
What's your favorite cut of meat on buffalo?
We like it all. I mean, the roasts are great. We use a lot of the ground meat, basically. We sell our steaks. The steaks are great, though. We used to sell a lot of steaks to Westin Crown Center Hotel, and they used to say that our strip steak was their top-selling steak. But even if you just use the ground or roasts, the roasts are wonderful. But the ground it just makes everything taste better.
How far away do you ship meat?
Well, we ship it to both coasts, but we try to, we ship wherever they are. We go to New York, Florida, and California. So we've been all the way around, and then a lot of different places in between.
What challenges did you face when you got started?
I called around a couple years before I bought any animals and talked to people like Butterfields. I talked to Houcks up in South Dakota. I talked to a couple other people that had bison and tried to figure out questions, but it's hard to know what questions really to ask until you have them. I know the important thing is to have if you go out and get a couple calves, you want to have a pen. The ones I got were not calves. They were probably like yearlings and 2-year-olds. And then I think there was one that was probably 3 of those first 4. That's why they didn't win that panel. I bet that crowd was probably 42 inches tall, and that was easy for them to jump out. And there was plenty of green grass everywhere around them, so they figured, what the heck, can't open the gate, so we'll just go over. And they didn't harm it at all. But you need a pen to put your animals in. Something like either use portable panels, but something decent size so that they can get adjusted to being their home. It's best to have calves or younger animals like that, because they're not so set in their ways. As far as, to me, they seem to be easier to adapt to a new place, and it's easier for them to accept it as being their new home. And then one day just open the gate and let them out, and keep the gate open so they can come back and get water, or if you feed them every couple days, it's a good idea. That way they keep coming back. In case you ever get them out, you want to be able to shake a bucket with some cubes or something in it so they follow you back home, which is important.
What challenges do you face right now?
Challenges?
Yeah.
The biggest challenge we have is getting animals processed, because of the fact that ever since COVID, there's been a problem with getting processing done. I know the plant I was setting, it was probably in March, I was setting up my schedule for the year with the owner, and the phone kept ringing, and so I got to the end of May, and they said, why don't you just call back in a couple weeks and we'll get the rest of it. But things changed overnight, and when I called back, they were booked up through December. They had saved one spot for me in December. Must have been a last minute thought they had. But it's, which I was grateful for. But that's the biggest problem. Too many, people are having to take animals in. A lot of them were taking them in, and people were wanting to buy meat that was not coming out of the grocery store. Probably knowing where it came from was important. And I think all that ties together with people not going to grocery stores also because of COVID and all these things. So if they could buy animals, even if it's beef or whatever, buy meat from somebody down the road that they know all about the animal, basically, that they were raised there. That's probably what caused a lot of that.
What do you do when your buffalo need medical attention?
I normally call a good friend of mine in Oklahoma, and he's a great guy, Dr. Gerald Parsons, and he'll always call me back. He's had a lot of experience with buffalo. He's probably had them as long as I have, and he's always there to answer a question. He's a very great veterinarian.
How hard is it to raise buffalo?
It's not hard. They're majestic. They're wonderful. Every day I leave here and go to work, I'm excited when I come home and see them. It's hard when it gets dark and you don't get to see them for a long time. Every day you leave and come back, but I see them always on the weekends then. But it's staying lighter now, so it makes it better. But they're not hard to raise. It's always good to have good loose mineral. Bison need mineral to eat. They used to get it from all around the country when they migrated. They'd get it out of the ground or out of the earth. And since they're not migrating, vast, thousands and thousands of acres, here, we have to have it out for them. And so a good loose mineral. And some people say, well, their animals never eat mineral. And it's hard for me to fathom that they don't, because I know we buy about a ton or two every year. And sometimes they slow down on eating, but they always seem to want a little bit.
Buffalo or bison, and why?
Well, I always called them buffalo, but over the years I've kind of called them bison, but because that's their scientific name. But we named our place Cottonwood Buffalo Ranch, not Bison Ranch. But that was years ago. I know the National had a thing about trying to market it that way, but a lot of the people, so they tried to get people to always refer to it as bison meat. But a lot of people know it as buffalo meat too.
Would you recommend bison to other people to raise?
They need a lot of new people in bison, raising bison, because the meat's so wonderful and so healthy that the average age, probably 10 years ago, was right around my age, which would have been about 60. So I imagine, I'm not sure where the average age is right now, but it's probably somewhere in that vicinity. So they need young people raising bison. Bison is the best meat there is for people to eat. It's healthy and it's got so much going for it. They're remarkable animals. They've got a great immune system. Everything about bison is pretty amazing.
What's the number one thing you would tell people before they raise buffalo?
Probably to either get a handbook, breeder's handbook, and go through that and read it. Talk to a couple people that have bison. Make sure your fences are in good shape. They don't have to be tall. Our fences are just cattle fencing with 3 strands of hot wire on the inside. You could get by with less hot wire, maybe 2 strands, maybe 1 even. But the most important thing is to have some kind of a pen to put them in. And you don't want a small pen. You want a decent-sized pen so they have plenty of room. And have water in there and hay.
What are some good resources for people to find if they're looking at raising buffalo?
Well, you can go to your local, there's Missouri Bison Association, Kansas Buffalo Association. There's also the National. The National's done a lot for the bison industry. As they're always got somebody, once a year they go to Washington. They're always trying to help anybody that's raising bison is affected by what the National does. I was on their board as a director for a couple years, and they're a wonderful organization. You've got a lot of dedicated people in that association, and there's not a lot of people in it. There's probably last I heard there was about 1,000, a little over 1,000, maybe 1,100 people. Members. But those people and the state associations got good people too. And there are people that aren't, but that's a good place to start and talk to people that have bison and ask them the pros and cons of it. See what you can learn. And that they've come out with the 2nd edition of the Breeder's Handbook, and it's a good reference. And there's a lot of good information in that you can read.
Yeah, where can the viewers find you?
KCBuffalo.com. Yeah, KCBuffalo.com. And there's our phone number there, and they can always get hold of me. Or you can call my cell for any information you want.
If you had it to do over again, what would you do different?
Maybe have gotten bison sooner. They're just a wonderful animal. I'm glad I've had years with them. I can't ever see being without bison myself. My wife was talking about it. Up in Montana she is, and she was saying that she missed the bison a lot. And I said, yeah, I can imagine.